that door. Oh, this one, because I do get vacuuming noise. All righty then. Well, welcome, everyone. I am Councilman Willie Lightfoot, Councilman at Large, Chairman of the Rock Against Gun Violence Coalition. This is our May monthly meeting. I'm joined here with Council President Miguel Melendez, who also chairs the Advocacy Committee. I'm also joined here with Dassey, our staff support, who's with us as well. In person, we have Reverend Cox. We also have Mr. Curran from the ATF. And I don't know other gentlemen in the rear there. You are, sir?
Me?
Yes, sir.
I'm a professor and an cultural anthropologist, and I'm working on a project in Rochester for a little over a year now on effects of gun violence, particularly
Professor of culture anthropologist.
medical anthropologist.
Working on a project.
That includes looking at effects of gun violence, and particularly on people who are paralyzed in gun violence.
Wow, awesome. Your name, sir?
Jason Kravilski.
Welcome,
I've
Mr.
joined online.
Okay, awesome.
My first time.
Well, welcome. We have many of our partners who are with us. If you're joining us via Zoom and this is your first time to a Rock Against Gun Violence Coalition meeting, I would just ask that you introduce yourself and what agency or who you represent. If it's your first time at a Rock Against Gun Violence Coalition meeting. Okay, I don't think we have any first timers that are on Zoom. We have already been introduced to Mr. Jason here. Yeah, I got you. And so we are, one second, we are going to get ready to move forward with our agenda in just one more minute here. Before we get going, typically we've had a rash of violence in our city in the last couple of weeks, which has been tremendously, to be quite honest with you, somewhat depressing, if you will. I'm just going to be totally transparent and honest with you. It's really been somewhat depressing and I'm not a person that gets depressed, but I'm gonna be honest with you, especially when you talk about 14-year-old children, you know, in the car crash, and we're hearing about these young people who also have been grazed or shot or have been impacted, and the families that are impacted with this is very, very troubling. So before we even move any further, we want to take a moment of silence to honor those who have lost their lives, those who've been traumatically impacted, which, to be honest with you, it's all of us, right? And so let's take that moment of silence at this time. Thank you. Amen. Thank you. Thank you. So we're foregoing introductions, being that I've kind of already done that. We're going to go directly right into our reports. And we're going to start with RPD with Captain Mura. You'll see the agenda is in the chat. You should have received your agenda also via email. Thank Dassey for doing a wonderful job with making sure she keeps us all together in communication, all seamless. So we'll start with Captain Mura. Go ahead, sir.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening, Councilman Lightfoot. I too am sad about the violence that has taken place in the last couple of weeks. I was actually out of town and I was reading the headlines while I was out of town, and it's just disturbing. It's sad. And I can just tell you from my perspective and all the folks at RPD, we're doing absolutely everything that we can possibly do to prevent this violence. My section in particular, the violence prevention section, we're putting out details every single day, going after shooters and individuals that we know to carry guns. So on that vein, I'll get right into the stats because we're getting a lot of guns off the street. I can only imagine how bad it would be if we weren't taking these out, but I'll give you the numbers and then we'll go from there. So last month we took 169 handguns off the street, 69 long guns, 22 ghost guns, a total of 260 guns off the streets in 1 month. So for last month. And some of the other stats that I was asked to look into, and I sent an email, I'm sure everybody received it, but I'll run through it real quick in my 5 minutes. The 195,000 that was a grant for the Shot Spotter is in actuality exactly that. It's money that was given to the city for our Shot Spotter system. So we're going to be putting up more microphones throughout the city to help us out with that technology. And that particular piece of technology accounts for numerous arrests and many guns taken off the street every single year, because the minute that goes off, we know exactly where the shot was fired and we already have officers heading that way. So from the DA's side of things, the other information I was asked to start supplying to everybody, and I will email everything that I'm giving to you out after the meeting. Last month, for the month of April, 53 criminal possession of a weapon arraignments in Monroe County. It doesn't mean that that's the highest charge or the only charge. It's just a CPW, criminal possession of a weapon charge, 53 total. 10% of those arrests and folks that were arraigned were held without bail. 20%, I'm sorry, 10 individuals, 20% were held without bail. 32 individuals, or 60%, had a cash bond bail set. And of those cases, 21 individuals had the cash bail set at $5,000 or less. 9 individuals, or 17%, were released with non-monetary conditions, basically on their own recognizance. And 2%, or 2 individuals, or 3% of the total, were unknown information. It was not into the system yet because they were recent arrests. That's all I have for updates right now. But like I said, we're putting out details just from my section alone every single day. And the other sections are doing similar things along that vein.
All right, Captain Murrow, thank you for that. I do have a couple of additional follow-ups, and first of all, thank you and the men and women, over 200 guns taken off the street. I love to see the day, Captain Murrow, where we're able to trace those guns to where that data is available to, being that we've just come off of a tour in our city of the truth behind crime guns in our city. Now these are 200 plus guns that we've taken off, so we have access to. I hope that information, that trace information, is also getting captured. I understand right now we can't share it. I get that part, but I would be happy to know, and I know we have Mr. Curran here too. I would be happy to know that we're tracing, and then it'd be interesting to know how many. We don't have to know the names, but it'd be interesting to know. We would want to know the names at some point. We feel we should know those names. Okay, that's evidence. But we would at least, under the current agreement that we have with the MOU and the current gun trace data report that we have, and the extensive work that we've done to educating this community around these crime guns, and these are 200 plus that we have actually in our hand. We would like to know at least how many of those guns are coming from within Monroe County. Okay, because we know what the data is leading us to, and we would hope that would be shared with this coalition. That's very important information. Mr. Kern, you want to touch on that?
Yeah, Councilman. So every one of those crime guns that gets recovered by Rochester Police, we have a great historical relationship with RPD, and those get traced immediately through ATF. And if it's a homicide, we have an ATF agent assigned to the major crimes unit. He'll trace that on an urgent trace. We'll get that information as soon as possible. I'll give it to investigators. And we look for trends when we do this. Similar to the trace study you guys did. We look for a time to crime, a short period of time. where guns are being trafficked. That's a major indicator for us.
So, Mr. Kern, what do we have to do in order to get that information, without necessarily breaking the TR amendment? What do we have to do to get that information public to us? Like to like we need to, that's very, very important
I
information.
actually understand that. ATF periodically releases information to the public. We just had a third volume of Study on Commerce was released on our internet site, and they talk about things generally. And
Right.
so some things where like specific trace information,
Sure.
we're prohibited by law by talking about public. But that doesn't stop us from cooperating with law enforcement. What we get as ATF agents and RPD, we work together. We have a task force that's historically worked very closely, and nothing prohibits us from sharing our information with law enforcement.
So RPD's got it. They,
Oh, RPD
you're
has it, yeah.
all of you are sharing information.
Immediately.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. So, all right. Thank you. Now the second piece, and I'll open it up floor for other people to chime in. The second piece, Captain Mura, that I want you to get for us, if you don't mind, please, sir. And it doesn't have, when you can get it, hopefully by the next meeting. I would like to see, and I know some of this information is already available, but I would like for you to get it specifically for this coalition. I would like to see by zip code homicides in all of the city zip codes, right? So let's take the 10. Let's just take the 10 for instance, and homicides, car thefts, robberies, and shootings per zip code. The amount, I want to get a breakdown of that, of those areas and data points, and I like to have it for let's say the last 4 years, please.
I can get you that data, Councilman. It's all of that data, every bit of what you just asked for is on the open data portal, and anybody can look at that anytime they want. However, if you want me to get that for the next 4 years, I will probably have to email it, because if I tried to go through that in this meeting, the meeting would go on for.
No. I'm not looking for that in this meeting, sir. I would just like for you to take, because the open data portal is good. Don't get me wrong, and I know, but just for the sake of trying to maneuver through all of that, if you can pinpoint those 4 areas: stolen cars, shootings, homicides, and burglaries. In those, in all of the city zip codes for the last 4 years, and email that to myself and Dassey, that would be great.
I can do that. You asked the first time, you said homicides, car thefts, robberies, shootings, and you just added burglaries. You want that as well?
Yes, sir. I'm sorry. Yes, sir.
No problem at all. I will get that emailed to you.
Thank you. Opening the floor for any other questions for,
I have.
yes, sir. Reverend Cox.
Captain, you said there were 9 out of I think it was 50 something that were released in their own recognizances. How many of them were repeated gun holders that were released in their own recognizance?
I don't have that data in front of me. I'm assuming. Well, I'm not going to assume anything. I don't have that data in front of me. I can ask the next time I ask for that data, but I didn't ask for it, so I didn't receive it.
Okay, he'll get back to us with that. Kathy.
Hi, Captain Mura. A couple of questions. Earlier, Councilman Lightfoot mentioned robberies. Then he mentioned burglaries. I believe you use a legal definition between those two things. So I was wondering if both the councilman's requests could be honored in the data collection.
Yeah, he said he would, Kathy. He said yes.
Great. Okay, so both robberies and burglaries. And
Yes.
then I just wanted to serve as a reminder, Captain Mura, we met a while back through the coalition. And at that time, it was a couple of months back, where Vice President Harris, I think she's Vice President Harris, but anyway,
Yes.
Miss Harris requested, could we please start reporting on the age of possessors monthly? And
Yes.
at that time, Captain Mura, you explained that the software that you use for data collection currently does not allow you to gather or bring that kind of data together in a monthly report, but you were going to look into it. And I was just wondering if you could give us an update on where we're at with that. That seems so important, that we know what the ages are of the possessors of these crime guns you're recovering in a month. That 260 figure is very large. And I'm thinking about the age of possessor for many reasons, particularly we're having a youth conference coming up next month. I think parents want to know, what are the ages of the possessors of the kids that you're recovering these crime guns from, so that we can understand how are they getting them?
Kathy, I understand. I get it. I agree with you. But there are limitations to what our software does. I specifically asked the DA's office, because if you look at the number of guns taken off the street and the number of people that were actually brought into the court system over that and were arraigned under the CPW charge, the number is drastically different. Part of that is because sometimes during a warrant, you might get 5 or 6 guns, or you might get 2 or 3 guns out of a car, one person's charged, or something along those lines. So bearing that in mind, I asked the individual at the DA's office who supplies me with the information regarding the arraignments if we could get the ages very specifically, and I was told no. They don't have the ability to give me that right now. They're trying to do it, but they couldn't give it to me when I asked. So I will ask again, and I'll find out from within RPD, again, if there's a way for us to figure out a way to get the system to spit out the ages. I can give you the ages of the homicide and shooting victims, but when it comes to the arrestees, it's a little bit different, because some go to the courthouse, some go to juvenile, they go all over the place. So it just depends.
Right, but just as a point here, Captain Mura, so this has been an ongoing question for quite some time, and I get that you're trying to get answers. Is the ATF capable of providing you with this information? Because surely they would have it, and they could just shoot you an email so that you could have it. And I believe that was one of the recommendations from the gun trace report, that law enforcement work towards the goal of sharing information as you are. And I know that you are trying to, Captain Mura. I'm just wondering whether there are other forces, law enforcement entities that could help you and support you in this, like ATF or the New York State Police.
Kathy, let's let ATF answer the question.
Sure. Yeah.
So Kathy, our information on that will be based on Rochester police arrests, so our information will come from Rochester police. But I can certainly work with Captain Mura. We work very closely together and see what we can come up with.
That'd be great. I think that would be important for the Rochester City Councilman to be aware of.
Okay. I know there are some prohibitions against juvenile information getting out there, but I'll talk to Captain Mura and we'll work on that.
That'd be great. Thank you, Agent Curran.
Kathy, anything else?
No, sir. No, thank you.
Very good. You have a good night.
Okay, is there any other questions for Captain Mura before we move on? We're gonna move on to, I didn't have it in here, but I'm gonna go to Vic Saunders, Special Assistant to the Mayor on gun violence prevention, and violence prevention. Go ahead, Mr. Saunders.
Good evening. How's everybody?
Good, sir.
All right. A lot going on in our office currently. As the mayor's advisor, we are gearing up for the summer. As you spoke earlier, we were talking about the 14-year-old who was a fatality, tragic fatality, being in a stolen vehicle, in a rollover crash. After that occurred, even before it occurred, honestly, we had started meeting with our county partners. I myself have met with Monroe County Human Services Commissioner Thalia Wright, and recently just met with the Director of Chief Probation Officer Christine Durante in a way of being able to intervene on behalf of young people that have previously been caught in these stolen cars, and also to offer assistance beyond their JEDS program, which is working and doing some phenomenal work in the community. Their JEDS program, which really targets these particular young people, has produced levels of only 5% recidivism since its start. And they've worked with over 55 kids up to date. So we're very excited to be able to assist in that. We're working with the Office of Children and Family Services and Tony Jordan, the Executive Director for Rochester Monroe County, to do further work with the Monroe County Children's Center behind young people that are getting released, as well as being able to do intervention with them while they're still in placement. Along with that, we have been working with our other cities within the state through communications that we've had with Governor Hochul's Office of Violence Prevention Director, Kayleana Thomas. I was able to coordinate a call with the Office of Violence Prevention for Buffalo as well as Syracuse. And basically the reason for that is to look at different trends that we're seeing in different cities as it relates to not only our young people, but our fatal and non-fatal shootings as well. A lot of the work that we're doing currently across the community that we're working with all the different partners. And as you can see on this call, we have representation with Corey Nichols Hadid from URMC, as well as Kelly Johnson. We, out of the Office of Violence Prevention, and me as the mayor's advisor, are working with the Health Systems Community-Based Violence Program Collaborative, doing work around non-fatal gunshots, and also trying to address the issue of care for a lot of our young people who, when you hear non-fatal gunshots, a lot of people don't consider what goes into that. I myself, after hearing Mike Patterson, a victim who was paralyzed himself for the last 15 years due to gunshot, to hear him talk about what really happens to people after they go through that type of traumatic event and the aftermath behind that, numerous surgeries, some are paralyzed. We have individuals right now at Monroe County Children's Center, young people who can't go home because their homes are not prepared to receive them after becoming paralyzed due to a gunshot wound. So we're really looking at ways to better offer services and aftercare for individuals who are victims of gunshot but not fatal. Also, something else, as we talk about the young people, and we understand a lot of these young people don't have a positive adult in their life. And a lot of times that definitely aids in some of the decisions that they make. A few years ago, we had done some work with Nurse Anne-Marie White at URMC, and it was around natural helpers. And natural helpers is basically the same thing we're trying to do right now, as Corey Nichols has received funding for us to do an intergenerational mentorship survey for individuals, not just those over 60, but also agencies that work in violence prevention and older adult services, in a way that we can positively affect the young people that are in our neighborhoods, possibly offer them the type of relationship with the older adult that could fill that void that they might not have about being able to receive the information that they need to receive to assist them in reaching milestones within their life. A lot of times our young people are getting their cues from their peers. They aren't getting the word that they need from the adults in their life that truly care. And a lot of them don't have grandparents or granddads like myself and yourself to be able to impart that wisdom. So those of us that have our own grandchildren, but still have the capacity to be able to offer that assistance and knowledge to others, I think is key for us to build community and offer some of these young people a different outlook as far as what they could expect for themselves. We are gearing up for an event on June 1st. Our Wear Orange campaign through Moms Demand Action. All these same community partners, we are doing that. We're also hashtag end gun violence. And we're going to be doing that June 1st at the Parcel 5 downtown, City of Rochester, Monroe County, URMC 585 Snug, Rock the Peace, Rise Up Rochester, Mom Demand Action. We're very excited about this. It's going to be an all-day event. It's going to be a family event to really bring awareness to ending gun violence in our community. And we're excited about that. As we talk about the tragedies that have occurred a couple of weekends, and we've had to deal with these homicides, one thing that I always tell people is the biggest issue we have is not only the amount of guns on the street, but the amount of guns in the hands of individuals without the ability to handle conflict and have never learned how to utilize handling conflict. And with that, we're in contact with the partners in restorative initiatives who have offered to do a series of workshops within the community around conflict to be able to support community members in using and sharing strategies to respond to conflict and to help others talk through conflict. If you don't learn how to be able to just be at odds with somebody without going to violence, that's a recipe for problems. So we don't want to teach our children that you can't have a disagreement and move on with your day. So that's going to be something that I hope we can do really quickly as far as a turnaround to get that started, because that's going to include the entire community. Now, in June, we have the Juneteenth coming. And with that, we're in collaboration with the Racial Justice Network out of South Carolina. And somebody you know very well, Patricia McGahey, who is their point person here in the city. We have contracted with them to bring the Thou Shall Not Kill bus here to Rochester. And they'll also be utilizing their curriculum. It's a tool used to combat the community issue of gun violence, drug addiction, mental health concerns, and also financial literacy. We'll have them here at our Pillar of Hope schools on the 14th. They'll also come down to our block party at City Hall. And then on the 15th at MLK Park, the Juneteenth event, they'll be parked for the duration of that event, allowing people from the community to come in and exercise, getting some of that good knowledge that they're bringing up here to discuss with our people in our community. Also, I want to give kudos to Moms Demand Action and others who helped co-sponsor the bill with New York State lawmakers, introducing a first-of-its-kind bill to hold the firearm manufacturer Glock accountable for enabling the spread of machine guns by refusing to redesign its pistols, which are uniquely susceptible to being converted into machine guns using those auto sears commonly known as Glock switches. So the fact that, that is what's going to make the changes we need in our community, changing legislation, bills attacking and addressing these issues. Because when the kids see this stuff on YouTube and all these other states that are lax in their gun laws, they want to acquire it. And if you want it long enough and they make it available to you, we will have problems in our community related more so to individuals being able to utilize these switches on guns. And lastly, there is a event on June 3rd. The Office of New York State Senator Samara Brook memorial display is going to be put up to honor victims of gun violence throughout New York State. It's going to be followed by the Black, Puerto Rican, Hispanic, Asian Caucus Anti-Gun Violence Subcommittee, who will host a roundtable discussion. And that'll be Monday, June 3rd. And I think that's, they use an abbreviation, LOB. I'm not sure which building LOB is. I will find out and get it to you, Willie, so you can get it to the partners. But it'll be from 12 to 3. I'm sure that'll be very interesting. Also, I'll be going to the White House on the 22nd of May to meet with Vice President Harris and other members of gun violence prevention groups across the country to talk about some of the issues that we see occurring in different cities, as well as to discuss exactly what we're doing here in our Office of Violence Prevention and how we look to expand our services to better serve the community. And that's my report. Thank you very much.
All right, so thank you, Mr. Saunders. Listen, you guys got a lot going on, brother, and we appreciate the work that you're doing. I'm glad that Ms. Williams McGahee got that bus. I'm glad that she did come to us, the coalition, and I steered her to you guys, to the mayor, because I said, you know, y'all got the big purse, not us. So I'm glad to hear that the bus is coming. Please, sir, keep us informed on all of the various events, especially concerning the conflict resolution education, all of those things that you have going on. As you guys know, the coalition is under the umbrella of the Public Safety Committee and the City Council Public Safety Committee, and the Public Safety Committee is inclusive of all 9 city council members. So all of the information that's shared, not only, of course, do we share this with the public because these meetings are streamed live on the City Council YouTube, but also I want to make sure that that all of our partners understand that the City Council supports the work that you do too, right? Whether it's police, right, whether it's the work that Vic is doing, whether it's Moms Demand, we're all partners in this together. And we have 3 out of the 9 council members actually that sit on this coalition in various capacities. So please send that information over. As you send it over to me, Mr. Saunders, I make sure that all of the council members are aware and abreast of that so they can share it with all of our constituency and so that we can lift it up in our spaces as well. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Saunders? All right. Thank you, Vic. I appreciate you, man. And tell the vice president I said hello.
No problem.
We're going to transition over to now. These are some individuals, Leslie and Mrs. Aaliyah Hinton Williams, who I just I can't think enough of. And I'm telling you, I say this a lot, and I'm so very proud of the fact that this coalition working towards, along with council, shifting our way of doing business in city government by really pushing towards human services. And part of that work was a crisis intervention team. And the work that they're doing is just phenomenal. And I know that they have just been inundated with calls due to this very violent couple of weeks we've had. But I just want to take a pause and just thank them for the work they do before and bring in Miss Aaliyah Hinton Williams and Miss Leslie Gordon to give us a report from the crisis intervention.
Thank you so much, Councilman, and thank everyone for all of your support. Crisis Services is just continuing to do the work in the community with those who are affected by crisis, trauma, and victimization. And so, of course, just like everyone else, we have been affected and impacted by the recent homicides in the community. But we just continue to support each other and make sure that the needs of our communities and our families who are losing family members to homicides are supported. And so we're committed to doing whatever it is that we need to do to make sure that that happens. And
well,
so
hold on, Miss Aaliyah, I know you're sliding by this and I'm not trying to put you on the point, but you actually had a family member that was impacted in this recent violence as well too, correct?
Yes, I did.
Our condolences to you and your family.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. So Leslie and I, in April, we were able to attend an event in Texas. It was a conference that connected us with resources and other service providers around the development work in grief and bereavement and those dealing with death. And I think it was very beneficial for Leslie and myself because it's a part of our work, even outside of the homicide response team. We're often called upon by the community to support people who are grieving. So we know that it's important that we continue to develop that work and make sure that we're trained in the areas that we need to be trained in. As far as the homicide response team, We've experienced about 20 homicides in the community so far this year. And our team was able to be on the scene of about 14 of those homicides. The community support team is providing assistance through calls and walk-ins and homicide families at the rate of about 150 calls a month. So that team continues to be busy. And then the person in crisis team has been working on a special project. That's been our homeless outreach project. We've been working on that since May. And we're going out every weekend, working with the Rochester Police Department Community Affairs Bureau in a collaborative effort to make sure that we're reaching out to the homeless populations in the downtown area, 14621, 14615, and 14613 areas. We're offering them resource information and just building relationships with people who are in the community and are unhoused to make them aware of the available resources. And we have had over 200 points of contact since March. So that has been an extremely positive and successful project so far. And then Leslie is going to give us the actual PIC data for April.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Lightfoot, as well. The numbers for the person in crisis teams for the month of April, we've seen over, well, we were dispatched to over 837 calls for the month of April. We have about we have co-responses and those with the police and those without the police. We have been pick alone calls were 151, and those that we attended with the police were 401. A lot of those calls that we have been dispatched to, some of them resolved themselves, some of them was medical for various reasons, but the pick alone calls were 151 and the co-responses were 401. Altogether, we were dispatched to 838 calls for the month of April.
And that's our report, Councilman.
Thank you, Miss Leslie and Miss Williams. 831 calls with how many staff personnel? How many people are responding to over almost 1,000 calls a month?
I think we have 2 open positions right now, and I think we have, Aaliyah, you can correct me, I want to say 22 staff members right now.
That's just on the person in crisis team.
That's just the person in crisis.
Okay, so you got 22 personnel currently right now?
Yes.
Okay. And so just doing the math, if you would divide that, that's almost 40 calls per person.
Yes.
A call a day per person, literally.
Yes, with the exception of part-time.
Right. How many, and you don't have to give me this now, but this would be a nice information to aggregate. How many, like, you know, with police, every call a police officer gets, there's certain many, and I know when I was on the fire department, for every call that we did, there was a certain amount of time. There's the before the call, there's the after call report. So there's, you know, there's a lot of reporting. So one call could constitute 4 hours or 2 hours, right? So it'd be interesting to know per call, what is the time for reporting, right? So that it may be 1 or 2 calls per person per day, but if that call, each call constitutes 2 hours, 3 hours of reporting, right? And it'd just be interesting to know how much time is involved in those 830 or per call, I would say.
Right. Well, the city's IT department has created crisis services own database. We're very excited about it.
Okay.
It's launching next week. And I will certainly take that back to them as one of the reports that we're going to want to run on a regular basis.
Yes. So one of the things that we know, and I'm putting it out here publicly, that we know is a need, that we need more crisis intervention support services. That is something that we need. That is something that we're going to be advocating for. I'm sure, I'm not speaking for the president, but I can say that I'm pretty sure that that's something that we're looking at very closely in this year's budget. What can we do to, as we see, especially even if some of these opportunities may be seasonal, being that we know our crime does have spikes during certain times of the year, it can be summertime. So we want to make sure that we're advocating that you guys have enough resources to do the job that that we need done in this city, unfortunately. But we do need it. Amen.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Does anybody? Yeah, Mr. President has some questions and comments.
Yeah, just one main question. I haven't had the chance to dive fully into the budget book yet. I'm starting that process, but just wonder if you can highlight at this time if there's any proposed increases in staffing for crisis intervention services overall. Is that something we should expect to see?
Well, we're in conversation right now with the Commissioner, Dr. Green, and the Deputy Commissioner, Sarah Fletcher, because we actually had to do some different things with the budget that we weren't expecting, and that certainly did impact staffing opportunities. So we're kind of trying to take an internal look at where we're at and what we might need based upon the increases that we're seeing. So as of now, President, no, but I think we're kind of open to the conversations. You know, the budget is already in, so
Right.
I'm not sure what kind of the backtracking process would be on that.
Great, thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Good information, good information.
If I may, Mr. Lightfoot,
Sure.
I'd just like to share, a lot of times you hear these ladies come on and give you their numbers and you hear about the work that they do, but you don't truly understand how they are truly superstars in the work that they do. I myself, we pass each other in passing and say hello, and I say, how you doing? They're always smiling. But I understand Aaliyah and I are also on the opioid team. And we were in a meeting a little over a week ago, and people were talking about the weekend and things of that nature and how it was addressed. And Dr. Aycock said something, we were walking out, and I caught it. And she said to Aaliyah, self-care. And I said, it resonated with me more so because of the work that these ladies do. I go back to PAVE days with Aaliyah when she first was really doing this as an activist in the community, and lucky enough to meet Leslie in her role as a PIC worker as well. And I'm just amazed about the capacity they have to be able to hold themselves up while they support all these grieving families throughout the community. I just want the community to know, all those people on Zoom and all those people watching, that we have true superstars that are blessed in this community to be able to hold up families and hold up children when they think all is gone and all is lost. I want everybody to truly recognize the superstars that we have working on our behalf in the community, to be able to support these families and these people the way these ladies do. And I just wanted to be able to tell you ladies that in this open forum, that understanding working in the community and working with people, and you lose people that you wear that, and how you take care of that is a personal thing, but through prayer, I know all things are possible. And I just wanted to tell you guys, you are truly appreciated. I appreciate you guys, man. I don't know if I have the capacity to do what you guys do on a daily basis, but understood that it is truly recognized by me.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. And we second and third and fourth and fifth that, Mr. Saunders, and that's one of the reasons why I was intentional about bringing to light the fact that Ms. Williams had her own loss, right? You talk about self-care, had her own loss throughout the last couple of weeks, and still continue to do the work. And,
right.
and that's very, very, very difficult to do. Most people would take time off work, would, you know, do all these other things, but she's still doing the work. And so
right.
we wanted to acknowledge that. But we also want to be respectful of the fact that this work around gun violence and violence is very, very traumatic. And it's work where you can get burned out very, very quickly. And so we want to make sure that we're giving them the support services so that that doesn't happen. And we want to make sure that we're doing that, as well as our employees, right? All of our city employees, making sure that these programs that we're giving the community, we want to be intentional also to make sure EAP, all the things that we currently have in place, we want to be encouraging our employees to be self-caring as well, because hurt people. And we want to make sure that we're taking care of our employees, because once again, I'll say this again, all of us are impacted by what's going on in our community. Every last one of us are impacted by it. And we carry it, some of us carry it better than others, but we have to make sure that we're creating those spaces for people to do that self-care and to check in with one another. And that's why I really enjoy these meetings, Mr. Saunders and everyone, because if we didn't have these meetings, how else would the community know any of this stuff? Unless it's on the news. Like, you know, we're not doing news reports. This is consistent, constant communication. And that's why we're intentional about making them hybrid, so that the community can be exposed to these superstars. Everyone on this call, to me, is a superstar. Everyone on this call that is working in the space to educate, eradicate, and those who are in person here. Everyone who comes to these meetings, I often say it, this place should be packed, right? If people are outraged with the violence in our community, if people are outraged, and I'm not throwing off on anybody or trying to, you know,
You're right.
To me, it doesn't have to be packed. I'd rather have the right people doing the right things with the right intentions. That's more important to me than having a packed room full of people. It's not about cameras, lights, and action and all that. It's about stopping the violence in our community, period. And educating our community on what's going on. A lot of our community think that we're just sitting on our hands, Mr. Saunders. They'll think that we're not doing anything, that we don't care. And that's not true. This is a forum to educate this community on all of the things that are going on in this space, from RPD, Moms Demand, Rock for Peace, Rise Up Rochester, violence intervention from crisis intervention, city council, the work that you're doing, Mr. Saunders. We're trying ATF. We're using every tool that and we're looking for more. If somebody's got the answer out there, please come and join us and help us. Please come help us. All right. If someone has something we haven't thought about, we don't know about, a best practice in some other city, other country, wherever, we are open to receiving that information, because at the end of the day, I think we all want the same thing for our community to stop hurting and stop being traumatized by this violence in our community. So I'm off my soapbox, but I agree with you, Mr. Saunders. Thank you, everybody, for the work that they're doing. Anybody have any questions for Ms. Aaliyah Hinton-Williams of Crisis Interventions before we move on? All right, we're running. We're getting a little ahead of time. I like to try to keep these meetings to an hour. I'm going to ask of anybody from the youth committee, because it was said earlier, I think Kathy misspoke or might have misunderstood. The youth conference has been moved to July. It won't be in June. It'll be in July. So our youth, Septimus is on the line. I don't see, let's see. I don't see our chair of the youth on the call, but I don't know, Septimus, the way we left things, I don't know if you want to give a brief high-level overview of the youth conference. Mr. Septimus, if you're there, feel free to do so. I know you're on that committee as well, or else I can give a brief overview. If you're listening, you got to unmute. There you go, sir. Go ahead.
Yep, I'm here. Sorry, y'all. I'm just in transition area, moving from one home to the other. My apologies. So right now we're looking to hold the event in July. We have to definitely get some confirmation from Ms. Breed, who is the chair for the youth committee, on the specific date. We did highlight a specific date, but I don't want to be the one to give that information out at this point in time. However, we're looking to make it a very dynamic event. The idea is to both have the youth who are in a few of this different programs and involved in designing out what the youth conference is going to look like. I think the idea overall is to have a multitude of different organizations that are currently present in this space specifically and that are doing the work in different capacities, like some different gyms that work with youth and work with youth mentorship, looking to get them involved so that the youth can see different organizations and people approaching the work from different angles, all come together to create this event. The idea of this event is really for all of us to be able to come together and make a huge impact, not only as the event specifies, but also outlining different things that are occurring in intervention and keeping our youth out of the criminal justice system in itself, but specifically our youth that are dealing with a lot of the gun violence that we're seeing in the city of Rochester. So that is all I want to share for this moment in time. So Mr. Lightfoot, I'm not sure if you might want to give a little bit more context around what we discussed at the last meeting.
No, that's beautiful, Mr. Septimus. I think that's great. Just for FYI, just want to know we do have a estimated budget for the event in the events. And so we are looking to put together, we pushed the time back, ladies and gentlemen, because we didn't want to just rush something. We wanted to have a really incredible youth conference centered around gun violence and violence within our community, anti-violence within our community. And we wanted to be youth-led, youth involved, and all of that. So we're very excited about how that's coming together. We'll have more to offer, to follow as time goes on. Thank you, Mr. Septimus. I am going to ask, is there any other committee that wants to come forward before I get into my report? Does any other committee want to offer anything? I'll just give that opportunity for anyone who wants to come forward with any information. Council President.
Yeah, just one quick update. The Advocacy Committee is going to be meeting this Wednesday, 5:30 via Zoom. So I believe the invite was already sent. Everyone received that. So hopefully folks are available. You're welcome. We're going to be discussing some of the procurement process and you know, just looking at legislation based on, I think, solution number 8 in the book on the solution action plan, and reviewing some of the possibilities that we could do with that, as well as going over some of the legislation. It's been a few months since the Advocacy Committee met, so going over some of the items from the last meeting in February, where we talked about what the city can do on its own without requiring any outside entity to be involved. So we're going to look at that again as well.
Thank you, Mr. President. Advocacy Committee, Youth Committees working. All of our committees are actively working, and we're very excited about the movement that we have going on. You know, last month we had the eclipse, we had the tax time, so there was a lot going on. I had death in my church, and I had to move some things around, so it was just a lot going on last month. But we're back in effect, and we do have a plan going forward. Moving into my report, recap the truth behind crime guns. We went out, we had 3 community events that were very successful and very well reported by the community, by the news, which we're grateful for, because we're trying to educate the community on the data that we have with the gun trace data report that we have, which we're one of only 2 cities out of the 5 places that have them. The other are states, you know, LA, Chicago, Pennsylvania, New York City, and Rochester. So we're one of 5 areas that have a gun trace data report by Brady, that we're happy to have that being a helpful tool. And we went out to educate the community on the key findings in that report. Now we'd love to see that report be yearly. It's something that we're working towards. That's another thing that the council, as a recommendation that we're looking at. We brought Steve Lindley in, a expert from Brady. We went to 3 quadrants: the Northeast, the Southwest, and the Northwest. And we opened it to the community. They were hybrid meetings. We streamed those meetings. Everything that we do, we do it in a transparent manner. There's no closed door meetings that we have, with the exception of obviously our Zoom committee meetings that our committees are having, but our general meetings are always held in a community way, right? So they're hybrid, they're on Zoom, they're in person, and they're also streamed on the City Council YouTube page. Now, trust me when I tell you, that was quite a feat for me to pull off at 3 different churches that have 3 different audio video systems.
You did a good job. You made it work.
Trust me when I tell you, it was quite the job, right? But we figured it out, and to be able to stream Steve Lindley from California each time, right? So, but we were able to do it with good audio feed, video feed. We got great responses from the community, and a lot of people understood that a little better. We were also able to do a In Focus with Lynette Adams on Channel 10, which gave us a little more insight. And so now we've moved out of that. The next phase is preparing for our relaunch of the Think About It campaign. A shot from a gun can't be undone. Hopefully, some of you can even see this poster, right? That is a pretty good idea of what this campaign kind of looks like, right? We're looking to relaunch this campaign. We're hopefully by the end of the month that we can get something up and going by June. Gun Violence Awareness Month would be ideal to have the PSAs. We're looking to really flood the community with this narrative, with changing the narrative, right? Giving them an alternative image that will make them stop for a minute and think about what they're doing. That's what the whole Think About It campaign is. Once that shot bullet comes out of that gun, there's no turning back. You can't undo. This is not a video game, right? You can't start over. And so we want to put this information, we did this back in 2018. We know that these campaigns do work. We've seen it with Project Exile. We've seen the tobacco industry do major campaigns and PSAs around, and we know that these types of campaigns do work. And so we're looking to relaunch A Shot from a Gun Can't Be Undone. Think About It campaign, okay? That's another part of what this work of the coalition is doing. Also working on our youth conference. We have our youth committee working on that, our advocacy committee, because again, we're lawmakers. At the end of this, we want to be able to present by September, October at the latest. We want to be able to look at the 12 solutions in the solution action plan. We want to be able to implement as much as we can, and then what we can't implement, we want to recommend to our partners in government to be or community-based organizations, faith-based organizations, or families, right? What they can do to be a part of this. So that is the work. We're also talking about having a public hearing with law enforcement, just to sit down to a table, have a roundtable discussion, see how we can utilize all the information that we have up until this point in time, and how we can better our strategies collectively around gun violence. So that's something else that we're exploring, that we're going to be working in the future as well. But though that's the kind of how we're moving forward. And at this time, I'll ask if anyone has any questions for me or any thoughts or inputs that they would like to share.
I have one final.
Yes, sir.
So I haven't had a chance to talk to Chair Lightfoot about this yet, but related to the TR amendment, what I'm hoping that the chair and I might be able to do is introduce a memorializing resolution to the federal government asking for gun trace data transparency and aligning that with what's going on not only here but around the country, where when these reports are published they have to be redacted. So I'm going to work with the chair to kind of figure out the language and the staff here, but I'd like to introduce that next month if possible.
Nice, absolutely, great. That's good stuff. So we once again, we're not, I really want to reiterate to the public, our partners. Oftentimes when we come to these meetings, I think there's, some people say, oh, well, I don't understand the impact that that's having or what is it doing. anytime we're coming together and we're collectively talking about solutions and working on the problem, then we're moving forward. The thing that we don't want to do is let the noise prohibit us or stop us from collaborating and communicating and working together. That's when we're losing the battle. We have to continue earnestly to working on the solutions, the action plan, the legislation, the policy, practices, procedures, the advocacy, the support services to all of us, the self-care. All of these things are important for us dealing with this violence and the trauma associated with it. So, I can never emphasize enough, because, you know, I'm a faith guy and, you know, people perish for the lack of knowledge. We're giving this community information every month. We're giving them information that they did not have before. So now they can know about the open data report. Now they know that they took 200 and something guns off the street. Now they know those guns are being traced by ATF. That information is being shared by RPD and law enforcement are communicating and talking together. We're going to get more data to show where are the most impacted areas per zip code. I want to know who's getting the most crime where. And so let's begin to start looking in those and targeting, if you will, our work towards the areas that are most needed the most. I think that's very important that we start looking at the trends. This is not Chicago. This is not New York City. This is Rochester. We can get anywhere in 20 minutes and we're 3 degrees from separation. So these problems, in my opinion, are solvable here because our city's not that big. You know, I guarantee you, and we already know the data tells us that 10% of the streets are causing 90% of the violence. So we need to be targeting these 10% of these neighborhoods and communities, not what do they call it, stop and frisk. I ain't talking that kind of stuff. But at the same time, we have to hold everybody accountable, right? So, and that's something that we definitely want to do. Kathy, I see your hand up. Unmute yourself, hon.
Yes, just 2 things quickly. President Melendez, I think that's a great idea about your idea for a resolution on transparency concerning gun violence data. And then on that issue of data and transparency, I'm wondering, would it be okay to request Agent Curran to go back to the ATF and request a monthly report on the 260 guns that Captain Murray and his team took off the street? How many of them came from Monroe County gun dealers? That should not be an issue with T-Heart because it won't be identifiable to any specific dealer. And then the second question is if it is a Monroe County dealer, or even if it's an out-of-state supply source for the crime gun, is it a dealer that is a repeat supplier for crime guns being recovered by Captain Murray? So 2 things, really 3 things. Is it coming from Monroe County? If not, where's it coming from? Inside New York State, outside New York State? Number 2, is the supply source for the crime gun that was recovered, is that source a repeat supply source for crime guns? So I think we have to think about this as a public health issue. And those are 2 critical questions we have to start asking with every single crime gun recovered.
Kathy, I totally understand. The one thing about the previous month, there was open investigations right now that we're still working on, but I can get data, similar data from the past. It's available on our website for the data they put together. I can get that to you guys. But we're working on that. We get reports every single day.
So what I would ask in a follow-up, Mr. Curran, what I would ask is monthly, would you be able to share with us those types of information with non-pending investigation cases?
I can get some older information. Like,
yeah.
A few months ago or a year ago, I got that information for you.
Right.
Releases. I definitely can do that.
We would like to get that as, if not monthly, then quarterly or as often as we can.
I will definitely do that for you guys.
Please,
I want
as
to get out there as much as we can.
As consistent and as often as we can, and of course, without jeopardizing any
Yep.
current investigation. That would be heavily, really appreciated. Really appreciate it.
I have a few updates from ATF if you have a chance to. I'll try to keep it brief. I know it's getting late.
Go ahead, absolutely, go ahead.
So one thing that the Attorney General signed off on recently was he expanded the definition of being engaged in the business of a firearms dealer. What that means is it requires more people to get federal firearms licenses to sell guns. And when that happens, that means they get background checks done when they sell firearms. Prior, in the past, it was for profit and livelihood. That was a very broad term. And now it's predominantly earns a profit. That also helps us out without dealing without a firearm prosecution as well too. So by having more people be required to get firearms selling licenses, and it's not as broad as it was before, we can focus on that. So that's something the Attorney General just signed off on. I think that's I can get some more. I don't have time to get into all of it, but I'll pass it on to you guys to pass out to the members. So I think that's fantastic. And a couple cases out of Violent Crime Task Force. Look, I really appreciate the community being involved. This is great. Our Violent Crime Task Force appreciates it. We're out there day and night, trust me on that, fighting violent crime. We got a couple significant arrests we made recently. We had sent agents from Rochester out to the Midwest, made an arrest of someone that was trafficking guns into Rochester. Not just regular guns, automatic weapons into the city of Rochester. They made an arrest. We have a couple other cases that are ongoing. Hopefully next month I can fill you in some more of those. We also had 2 federal sentences in federal court. Two separate individuals got 12 years each from the city of Rochester in federal prison time, 144 months each. So that's pretty significant as well too. And we also made an arrest on a person that was making threats, not only to people in the government, local, federal government, but to every ATF agent in the country. Made threats to murder all of us, and we arrested him. We had 2 firearms with him. So that case is ongoing, so I can't get too much into it, but that was significant. I think we definitely did something that was valued to the community right here in Rochester.
Nice.
And I go, well, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Oh, I got one more thing. So we had ghost gun training too as well in the city of Rochester for law enforcement professionals, and also machine gun conversion devices like you guys were talking about earlier, to have local police be able to identify easier the ghost guns as well as the lock switches. We had 160 law enforcement professionals from 46 different law enforcement agencies attend that.
Okay,
So that was at our office in Rochester,
nice.
and very well received. And we keep doing that on a regular basis.
Good. Well, go ahead, Kathy, you had a follow-up?
Yep.
Big follow-up, huge kudos to ATF on expanding the definition for what it means to be engaged in the business of selling firearms. Big shout out to Councilman Lightfoot for the letter that you sent along with other officials to the ATF, calling upon the ATF to make that important change. And what this is going to do, it's a change of a 30-year dominance where privately sold firearms previously had not undergone a background check. And this is now going to require background checks on both private sales, because those dealers will have to register as FFL dealers, I believe. And it's a huge, huge change for the good. I should also mention, so everybody understands the challenges faced by the ATF, that the NRA is currently engaged in 2 or 3 lawsuits to undo that new rule that the ATF just implemented. So, they're doing some life-saving work, and that rule change is significant. It's historic. It's a change from a 30-year precedent where privately sold guns now are going to have to undergo a background check.
Good stuff. Well, we want to thank Mr. Curran for he's been a partner with us for a while now. He comes to all of our meetings. He participates. He listens. He shares. And we appreciate you. We do. We appreciate you as a partner. We're glad to have you as a partner, and we look forward to doing more stuff with you as time comes. So we're gonna
Class act.
Oh, go ahead, Lou. Oh,
I'm sorry. Well, Mr. Curran, sometimes he gets beat up coming to these meetings, but I think he's a class act.
I agree. So we're gonna wrap it up, ladies and gentlemen. If you look at our action items, we kind of already went over that, what we're getting ready to work into, the meetings that are up and coming, the work that we're working on for the future, events that we're having. We're asking everyone, please send your events. Do you have your hand up, Septimus? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, yes, I do. My apologies, Mr. Lightfoot. Just before we close, I wanted to know if the gentleman that is I believe the anthropologic researcher that's in the building, if we can get his information just so I can connect with him, just for the GVP research that I'll be doing, just so that we can be able to have that information from him as well.
Absolutely. We'll ask him to please sign our sign-in sheet, leave your email and contact information so we can share that with Septimus and whoever may want to connect with you on the work that you're doing.
I like that.
Absolutely. Thank you, Septimus, for asking for that. We are our next meeting is Monday, June 10th, with the exception of our committee meetings. We ask our committees to continue to work. We're asking all of you who are having events, please send that information over to, I see Andre's on the call, either to Dassey and Andre, myself, include us all in that. Senior, as we create this calendar that we're creating or that we're keeping, and we want to make sure that we're supporting everyone. We also are glad to be also a partner in that June 1st event at Parcel 5. We will be there. We want to make sure that all of the events that we're having, I have an expungement event coming up this Saturday. For those who may know individuals who have past records and trying to get their records clean, it'll be at my barbershop from 11 to 3 this coming Saturday, an expungement event that I have that I'm doing with Law New York and Judicial Processing Commission. So we're working on all sides of this issue to try to help our people to have alternatives to making bad decisions that they're making. All of you are doing great work as well, and I appreciate you. I'm sorry that I went over a little bit over time tonight, but I think we got a lot of information, and it had been a while since our last meeting, and we wanted to get that information out. Thank you deeply and kindly for all of the work that you guys do. Make sure that you love yourselves and love others, and God bless you, and we see you next month, all right? If we don't see you before. Blessings.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.